I'd like to call to order the Village of Gurnee Planning and Zoning Board for this Wednesday, May 7th, 2025. Roll call, please. Is Joanne not here?
Campbell.
Oh, Joanne's just walking in.
Present.
Morgan.
Here.
Nordentoff. Paff.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Ware.
Here.
Sula.
Present. We do have a quorum. If everyone would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, the first item on the agenda is the opportunity for public comment, and this would be for items that are on the agenda except the public hearing item. So does anybody have anything to say outside of the public hearing? If not, I'll close the floor to the public. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting that was held on March 5th. Does anybody have any questions, changes, or comments? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Campbell,
Second.
second by Mr. Papp. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the meeting that was held back on March 19th. Does anybody have any questions, changes, or comments? If not, a motion to approve would be in order.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Papp,
Second.
second by Mr. Campbell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is a request for a design standard modification for the Burger King located at 5300 Route 132 or Grand Avenue. Shannon?
Yes. Mr. Thomas Savoca of MRV Architects Incorporated, on behalf of Burger King Restaurant, is requesting a design standard modification for the relief of the 50% front facade glazing requirement on the south facade of the proposed building within the C1 Neighborhood Commercial PUD District on property located at 5300 Route 132. The future Burger King, as submitted, has a front facade glazing as proposed of about 26.8%. The existing Burger King restaurant is proposing to undergo complete demolition and construction of a new building prototype that will include double drive-through lanes and a merge lane pickup. The original Burger King restaurant was built in 1986 under the old standards zoning ordinance at that time. However, the design standards of the current zoning ordinance as planned does not meet the front facade glazing standard. The relief is needed to screen the new location of the kitchen and the secondary drive-through running along the west side and the portion of the south side of the building.
Is there someone here from the petitioner? Okay. Yes, please. If you could please state your name for the record.
My name is Tom Savoca with MRV Architects. I'm representing Mike Gould and MJG Enterprises. He's a franchisee for the Burger King and representing Burger King itself. As Shannon stated, we are requesting relief. We cannot meet the 50% glazing requirement on the south facade due to the orientation of the building and the layout of our new prototype. On the west side is actually the kitchen, and behind that wall is plumbing and kitchen equipment. And on the east side, behind the Burger King logo, is actually dedicated for a kiosk counter, and there's going to be menu screens above. So we've kind of maxed out the glazing on this facade, and we're requesting relief from the zoning ordinance.
Does anybody have any questions? Anita? No. Liliana? No? Todd? Dean?
Just one, the percentage was 28% on this side now? Is that what is proposed?
It is about 26.8%.
On the new concept, right?
Yes,
Okay,
under the 50%.
okay.
Okay, and I'm assuming that Burger King doesn't give you much latitude on this, and it's,
So it is a new prototype that's going to be the future of Burger King restaurants. And they do have very specific design standards and looks they want to achieve. So there's not a whole lot of flexibility. We pitched the idea of spandrel glass, but I heard that was not an option as it did not count as glazing.
okay.
If you remember, we had the same issue come in with the Casey's store. We're finding that the single-user buildings, there's quite a bit of back-of-house stuff that needs to be kind of screened from public view, and that the glazing, the intent of the glazing is for more of a traditional storefront, to make it, you know, a lot of glass in the traditional storefront. It doesn't really apply well to the single-use buildings, as is the case here. The eastern frontage that fronts Lawson Boulevard is fully compliant with the glazing requirement. Those would be the two frontages that the glazing requirement would be triggered upon.
This is a lot like Raising Cane's too, isn't it? Can we come up with the same issue, the drive-through and?
I actually noticed that on the way here, the Raising Cane's kind of has the same look on the exterior.
Yeah, I believe we handled it through the PUD in Raising Cane's, or I don't recall that one specifically, but we did do something with it to modify those standards.
Right. But the whole idea is to break up the facade, and I think they're doing that here with the architecture anyway.
Agree. Okay, any other questions or comments? And it looks like we have decision-making capability on this one, so a request to approve would be in order.
Read the motion.
Yes, please.
Motion to approve the request by Thomas Savadko of MRV Architect Incorporated on behalf of Burger King for relief of the 50% front fascia glazing requirement on the south fascia of the proposed building on property located at 5300 Route 132 Grand Avenue, consistent with the petitioner's testimony.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, was that Dane? Okay. Any discussion? Could we have roll call, please?
Campbell,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Morgan,
Yes.
Taft,
Aye.
Ware. Aye. And Sula.
Aye. Motion carries. Good luck with the program, and thanks for the investment in the community.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is a public hearing, a special use request for .71 acres located at 7005 Route 132 Grand Avenue. Shannon?
Yes. Mr. Daniel Olson of Parvin Klaus Sign Company on behalf of First American Bank is requesting a special use permit for approval of an electronic message center sign within the C2 Community Commercial PUD District on property located at 7005 Route 132. The petitioner will demonstrate how their proposal will meet the 10 standards for approval for an electronic messaging center sign.
Okay, as this item is a public hearing, I would request that anybody from the petitioner or members of the general public who intend to ask a question to please stand and be sworn in.
Please raise your, very good. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And if you could please state your name for the record.
My name's Dan Olson with Parvin Klaus Sign Company representing First American Bank.
Okay.
So we're just requesting relief for, the ability to have a monument sign with electronic message center. It's pretty much the standard look that the bank has at their locations. We have all the limitations and the restrictions listed. We've been informed of what those might be as far as usage of the LED message center. First American Bank really doesn't use their electronic message centers the way most commercial businesses do. It's really much more passive. They like to just, as the example there, you see it looks like it could just be a static sign, but they put up the rates in a couple of different products. that they market, but they don't do any flashing or scrolling or anything. So all the restrictions that Gurnee likes to see in there within this approval process is perfectly what they normally would do.
Any questions? Dane? No? Ted?
No.
Okay, just as a formality, I'm going to open the floor to the public, close the floor to the public. Any more discussion? If not, a motion in the form of a recommendation to the village board would be in order.
Motion to approve the request by Daniel Olson of Parping Klaus Sign Company on behalf of First American Bank for an electronic message center monument sign on property located at 7005 Route 132, also known as Grand Avenue, consistent with the petitioner's testimony.
And the only thing I would amend to that is a motion to approve a favorable recommendation.
Yes, okay, I didn't catch that. Okay. And it's obviously incorporating all the design standards? Okay. All right, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second?
Second by Mr. Paff. Any discussion? Could we have a roll call, please?
Campbell,
Aye.
Martin,
Aye.
Morgan,
Yes.
Paff,
Aye.
Ware. Aye. And Sula.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you. One question. This type of a case, when that goes to the village board for final approval, is that a consent agenda? Or does it need to be
It's
attended?
most likely will be on the new business portion of the agenda. Most special use permits are not included in the consent agenda.
Should be attended then.
Yeah, yes,
Thank
please.
you.
Okay,
bet.
thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is an informal review request by Fiduciary Real Estate Development for a project proposed to be located on 16.7 acres located on Tri-State Parkway between Grand Avenue and Cemetery Road. Shannon?
Yes, the petitioner, Mr. Anthony DeRosa of Fiduciary Real Estate Development, is seeking informal feedback on purchasing a 16.7 acre parcel along Tri-State Parkway and rezoning it from O2 General Office District to R6 Multifamily Residential District Development of 120 multifamily dwelling units housed within 6 two-story buildings. The proposed development will be located east of the existing wetlands and stormwater detention facilities. Additionally, Camrose, a consulting firm in planning, zoning, and economic development, landscape and architecture, prepared a memorandum that provides a brief analysis of the Tri-State Parkway site and its potential future land use, including opportunities for multifamily development. This is a second informal review, continued from July 10th, 2024, PZB meeting at that time.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll turn the floor over to Fiduciary.
Good evening. My name is Tony DeRosa with Fiduciary Real Estate Development. We're glad to be back before you again. We were last before you back on July 10th of last year, so just shy of about 10 months. And at that meeting, we had a lot of great feedback. We took a lot of things to heart. We've been working on trying to find solutions to the site, which has its challenges. We're working with staff, and we're here tonight to re-present what we've been working on. I think most of you were at the meeting last July, so we can skip over, Shannon, some of these first slides. I think you know who we are. We're based in Milwaukee. We're a big company. We've built a lot in the Chicago suburbs over the last few years. So if you, Shannon, if you just go back one slide for me, please.
Yes.
Actually, go forward one slide and one. There you go. Thank you. So as a reminder, this site is unique. There's a lot of challenges with it. It's about 16 acres. The orange shaded area on the right, that's what's actually buildable on the site. It's about 6 to 7-ish acres. To the left of that, you've got the dark shading area. There's an existing stormwater facility that drains stormwater from the car dealership to the north, as well as this site. That's an existing pond that exists today on the property. The area hatched to the left of that, or to the west of that, is a wetland area. We've done the analysis. It's actually a fairly low-quality, isolated wetland by definition. Next slide. So we talked a lot last July about highest and best use for the property. So I'm just going to touch on just a couple of these things here again tonight. So the property is designated as O2 General Office. Obviously, there's been a significant decline in office demand accelerated by remote work, has really diminished the viability for the site for the office use that it's currently zoned for. You look at other uses, you look at retail development, obviously with its proximity to Gurnee Mills and how the retail landscape has changed, retail is probably not also a likely fit for this property today. Industrial also presents some challenges, given the site's limiting size, the wetlands, the depth, the configuration doesn't lay out great for industrial uses. So we think at the end of the day, highest and best use for this property still is multifamily. We think it checks the key boxes for a successful project due to its proximity to employment centers, the major retailers, the great interstate access it has, along with the public transit in the nearby area. So in your packet that was included for tonight's agenda item, there was a site analysis report that was conducted by Camiros, the village's planning consultant. This was an analysis that was requested by staff for this property. So what I've put together is kind of a summary slide, might be a little bit hard to read, but you have the information in your packet. This really highlighted their conclusions regarding multifamily being an appropriate use for this location. So I want to highlight a couple things. So some of their conclusions. So this site, they concluded, provides an opportunity for residential development, in particular, higher density multifamily. They feel that designating the site for multifamily would help achieve the housing diversity goals cited within the village's comprehensive plan. And there's a number of factors which indicate that the site, why it would be appropriate for such use. And these include, the first one is access. There's access to the site from Grand Avenue. Also, the site is proximate to public transit running along Grand. The second one was the amenities, and they looked at amenities a little bit differently than you might think about. The existing stormwater facilities and wetlands can function as a natural amenity to those within the development. Also, as a residential development, the impacts on stormwater would be less than that as if it was developed for commercial. And the third one, while they recognize public facilities in the areas and its proximity to schools, with the design change that we've made, and I'll get into that in subsequent slides, we've eliminated all of our 3 bedrooms within the overall development. So our appeal and our overall appeal to families with children really has gone away with the design change that we've made. So they looked at future development of the site should really be sensitive to certain aspects. So this is the guidance they provided if multifamily was to be supported here. They said the development should be properly buffered from the roadway, incorporating elements such as a larger front setback, as well as landscaping to mitigate some of the traffic impacts. And you'll see that those are some of the significant changes we made to our plan that I'll talk about. They also recommended that existing stormwater facilities and wetlands should be integrated into the development to provide this as an amenity for those that live there. They identified things that this could include connections to natural areas via walking paths, seating areas, and things like that. So in conclusion, they said this, in summary, this site presents a promising opportunity for higher density residential development, aligning with the village's housing diversity goals. So if you go to the next slide. So this is our updated site plan. So we took the feedback from Camiros, we took the feedback we received last July 10th and really kind of flipped this thing on its head and took a totally different approach to it. Our plan last July, I have to admit, was very dense. It was very rectangular. I don't think there's as much creativity for an initial site plan as I think what we're doing right now. So we've really tried to change things up and reshuffle the deck, if you will. So down the right-hand side of this slide, I'm going to walk you through the changes that we've made. So first off, we reduced the overall size of the project. Last July, we were at 140 apartments. We reduced that by 20 down to 120 total. Well, kind of hard to see on this slide, but we've added a mowed walking path with some benches throughout the wetland buffer to create additional amenity space to our residents. We think not turning our back on that and actually opening up the project to it, I think, is a good enhancement. All of our 3-bedroom units, as I touched on earlier, have been completely removed from the plan. We think this will really limit appeal to families with children. Our minimum setback along Tri-State Parkway, originally last July was 10 feet. We have doubled that to 20 feet. There is now a minimum of a 30-foot setback from back of curb to building. So the code requirement is 30 feet from property line. We are at 20 feet. We've also changed the frontage here, I'd like to point out. So originally, last July, we had 5 buildings fronting Tri-State Parkway. So as part of reshuffling the plan here, we're down to just a clubhouse, that's the small building in the middle, and just 2 apartment buildings. So just under 50% of our frontage now is the only part that does not comply with the setback. We've also aligned all the sidewalks along Tri-State Parkway for better access throughout the area. And we've also relocated a clubhouse. If you remember, our clubhouse was on the west side, just north of the existing detention facility. It was extending into the wetland buffer. We've brought that out to the frontage. We think that better activates the streets. And now we've minimized, actually reduced completely all of our wetland impacts. We've added additional landscaping enhancements along Tri-State Parkway. You can kind of see the green shading here for concept, but we think there's an opportunity here to really beef up that screening. None of the buildings on this revised plan, as I mentioned, encroach into the wetland buffer anymore. And our revised plan, if you remember, completely avoids, there's a sanitary sewer easement that runs parallel along Tri-State. And we're infringing on that by about 5 to 10 feet previously. And now this revised plan has completely avoided that existing sewer easement. So we put together some new imagery for you. So this is, overlooking the walking path. We're really trying to turn the site features into amenities here. You can see the walking path, some benches, and really some great green space amenities. Again, really enhancing these existing site features for residents to enjoy. Walking path here again on the west side that would extend through the wetland buffer. As I mentioned earlier, we moved the clubhouse out to Tri-State. We think that breaks up the facade a little, or the street frontage a little bit better with just 2 apartment buildings and 1 clubhouse, and remove that impact to the wetland that we had previously. A project of this scale of 120 units still gives us enough scale in order to provide an amenity like a clubhouse, an outdoor pool for our residents. This is the view along Tri-State. We added some imagery here of what landscaping could look like. I think we can actually probably even enhance this even further as we go through the design process, but this at least gives you a feel for how we've pushed the buildings back and softened that image a little bit. The design itself really has not changed. It's substantially similar to what you've seen, so we can skip over this slide. We had a couple other additional interior images for you. In terms of level of finish, this is going to be online with what you find in a single-family home. Direct access garages would be available, private balconies and patios, and primary suites with walk-in closets. Some of our interior finishes, this is an example of what the inside would look like. We'd have upgraded stainless steel appliances, designer cabinetry, in-unit full-size washer and dryer, and solid surface countertops. We added a new slide this time to give you a feel for the inside of the clubhouse, because I think amenities and providing that will allow us to stand out in the marketplace. This is our clubhouse design. This is going to be the best clubhouse in the marketplace. We have a work-from-home lounge and media facility for people to use. We have a fully equipped fitness center for all of our residents, as well as a club room and a catering-style kitchen that people can utilize. So in closing, just a couple things. In terms of market demand, I don't think there's any question that there's pent-up demand for product like this in the market. A lot of the housing options in the market are older communities, and there's a lot of people that work in the nearby area that don't have a lot of great housing options to them. In terms of target demographics, touched on that a little bit earlier. We think our typical resident profile here are people that are working in healthcare, finance, retail, insurance, real estate, technology, police, fire, civic, government, education, retirees, to name a few. There's a huge job concentration, as obviously that we know about in this area. We think this is going to be a unique development. This is something for people that aren't looking to live in your typical 3- and 4-story elevator or corridor building. These have private direct entrances, giving it more of a condo or a townhome type feel. And we think with the proximity to the retail amenities, the recreational amenities that we've really embraced now, we think this could be a great opportunity for the village of Gurnee. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great, thank you. Who'd like to start? Go ahead.
Thank you for making the changes and the feedback. Appreciate it. I really, the added additional landscape enhancement is really great. the sidewalks and doubling the setback, especially the walking path and the landscaping, for me, those just, as I remember last time, it just gives it more of a residential, and feeling. And excited to have more of the residential units, opportunities, and hopefully there will be a community building that you will start. I do have a question. Parking spots, how many do you have?
Yeah, so the plan provides for 200 and, I'll give you the exact number. We exceed the code requirement. 225, I believe, is what we have, and 215 or 218 is what's required, so we do exceed the code requirement.
Okay. I didn't see any pictures of, are they behind where the space is?
Yeah, so every building has 20 apartments within it, and there's 8 attached garages within
Okay.
each building, and then surface parking for the balance.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question about the clubhouse. Where's the parking for the clubhouse?
Do you want to go back to the site plan? So you can see just on the north side of the clubhouse building, there is a row of parking there.
When you say a little parking, what's a little parking? The reason I'm asking is, say,
There might be about 10 spaces there roughly.
10 spaces.
Showing 13.
Yeah.
13. I'm just thinking about what if somebody rents out the clubhouse for?
Right, so that's a really good question. So with exceeding the parking code requirement, and we have lots of communities of this size and larger, we think with the parking there and by exceeding the code, because the code actually is fairly substantial, we think our parking requirement at the end of the day for a project like this is probably closer to 1.5 to 1.7 spaces per unit, and we're closer to about 1.9. So we think there's an excess of amount of parking to accommodate people renting out that facility.
Approximately, what's the price range of the apartments?
Sure. On the lowest end, we're probably starting at about $1,600 and going up to about $2,200.
Thank you. Oh, one more question. How long will it take to build?
This would take about 18 months to build.
18 months. Thank you.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot better proposal than the last one. Instead of 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack, it looks more like 7. So.
Noted.
It's still pretty congested. I really liked the proposal on the 10 Hotel where they only had 1-bedroom units. I can see you still attracting some young families. I don't know how attractive it would be, but in any case, I can still see that happening.
Yeah, so if I can address that comment. So we like to provide, our typical model is we've got some small studios, about 40% 1-bedrooms, 40% 2-bedrooms, and then about 10% 3-bedrooms. That's typically what we've been building. With the changes and trying to address comments and some of the concerns, as I mentioned, we eliminated the 3-bedrooms. In the model that we built for other projects where we do have 3-bedrooms, those are typically the units that attract families with kids. And for every 100 units we build where we have 3-bedrooms as part of the mix, we see about 8 to 10 school-age kids per 100 apartments. So that's when we have 3-bedrooms. Without 3-bedrooms here, and this project being a count of about 120, we think the appeal and the number is going to be a fraction of that.
Okay, well, it's good to know. Are any of the parking spaces marked for the
Yeah, typically we'll provide reserved parking spaces for people so that when you come home after work or from wherever you may be during the day, you know where your parking space is. You don't have to go hunt for a space. We think that's nice for our residents. They appreciate that.
So there are some open spaces throughout the complex, though?
Absolutely, right. So we'll have reserved spaces for, where you live. You can park in space 12 every day. No one's going to take your space. And we have an abundance of spaces that are unmarked for guest parking.
Okay. One other thing that just kind of stood out to me, it's the first 2 entrances from Grand Avenue into the complex. You're turning right into a parking area. It's very short. I'm worried that you might get people backing up onto Tri-State Parkway. If someone was trying to back out of a parking place or,
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. You know, as part of this, we would do a traffic study to make sure we got the right depth there with our traffic engineer. And if we have to take a space or two, since we do have an excess amount of parking right now, to, you know, remove that situation, I think we have some flexibility to do that.
okay. That's it for the moment.
Okay, Dane?
Again, thank you for presenting this to us. Like I said, it was it's much better than what it was beforehand. My concern is the southern entrance and that curve. There's seems to be, just driving there yesterday, could be a potential blind spot. And I would be concerned with people trying to get in and out of there. I know the speed limit's, 30 miles an hour on that road, but if you're like me, you don't do 30 miles an hour.
You do 15?
25?
I won't say, but I don't do 30. But, you know, I'd be concerned, especially if there are, you know, residents trying to cross the street to get to the sidewalk on the other side, to go up or anything of that nature. I'd be concerned that cars coming around and hitting them. That would be a concern. I don't know if there's any way that you can somehow eliminate that blind spot there, or who, what, when, or how with that, so.
Yeah, so as we go through the traffic study, we'll bring in the traffic consultant to weigh in on that, obviously working with the village engineer as we do this, you know, vision triangles, landscaping, to make sure that it works, you know, by village standards as well, to make sure we're not creating an unsafe condition, but I think that's a fair comment. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'll add that being on the outside of the radius for the curve, you have much better visibility than being on the inside. So they're on the favorable side of that curve for traffic being able to pull in and out. And they are proposing a sidewalk on the west side of Tri-State Parkway as well that will connect all the way up to Grand.
Sweet.
And thank you. I mean, I like the drawings and the renderings that you had last time, and it's a similar size and feelings. And I think my issue the last time was just location, and obviously you can't get over that. I know there isn't an abundance of open land in and around Gurnee for residential, and I still struggle with this one being smack dead in the middle, to me, of industrial / C2 in and around that area. So I struggle with that a little bit, and I have to chew on that a lot more before I can get comfortable with the location of the residential just being kind of dropped right in the middle of a lot of competing use. Understanding that, you know, there isn't a lot available, but this being to me a stone's throw away from industrial, right across from Restaurant Depot. I gather that we've done something with the hotel. That was an existing building that you really wouldn't know that was, had some relief based on the residential nature if you didn't know it. And then the car dealership right next door. So I still, and the school is right across the parking lot for the school. So I still struggle with the location because I feel it's just out of place.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair comment, and I can, a couple of things to speak to that. So the village's comprehensive plan, right? It's the dated document. Comprehensive plans are put together, and things change. That was one of the reasons why I think, you know, working with staff, they said, let's have Camiros look at this. Let's get their opinion. They're on the cutting edge of what are trends, where do people like to live today. From the date that report was put together, the infancy of the current comprehensive plan, trends have changed, right? So that they look at it through a current lens today and say, okay, how people live today versus 5, 10, 15 years ago are different. And what the drivers are in terms of proximity to, you know, jobs and retail and public transit, those things are what is driving a lot of residential growth today. In a perfect world, this is a farm field and there's nothing around it, right? And there's homes, and but people live and their housing decisions are different today. So Camiros came in and said, okay, here's what people are looking for today. Does this check those boxes to make it desirable? And they concluded that, yeah, it's got those attributes that, well, it does look like spot zoning. The other things going around the site make it desirable for higher density multifamily.
Thank you.
From my perspective, it's greatly improved since you came back in July of last year. I especially like the reduction of the density, the removal of the three-bedroom apartments. I think reconfiguring like where the clubhouse is a very good thing. That coupled with the increased setbacks takes away the concern that I had that there'd be a canyon effect with those lines of buildings that were proposed the first time. I'm also feeling a lot more receptive to the concept because we kind of put our toe in the water already with Hotel 10, and their additional amenities, in my mind, make this less than an island than it was before, in that they've got the convenience store aspect, they've got delivery food capabilities, there's more attraction than there was before. So I'm feeling a lot better about it than I was the last time around. So thank you.
Thank you.
So as you know, we're informal here, so I haven't heard, did you have an additional comment?
One quick question that you mentioned, I think you mentioned school. Have you looked at if there are children and school buses? Do you know where they would go, where they would stop? Have you looked at all of that?
No, we're not to that point. You know, if there's 5 kids that live here, obviously, as we go through the design process, we'll have to figure out what that looks like. There's a place to accommodate that somewhere on the plan. We're not concerned about that. But tonight is really about, like, we've come back with a revised plan. Is this something that the board would encourage us to continue to work on and bring forward? We don't want to waste your time by any means. We're very respectful of that. We're just looking for the guidance of, and it sounds like generally positive.
Well, what I was going to say was that I'm not hearing anything that is telling me that you guys should just drop it. I think you're hearing a lot of receptivity here. I've heard some minor concerns about traffic and fine-tuning of the way the parking spaces work and everything, but my sense is there's a lot more receptivity to it than it was before.
Great.
So,
Well, we appreciate
Does it
working
help?
with staff, and we appreciate you letting us come back.
okay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next meeting is scheduled to be the 21st of May. Are we going to have one?
We have no public hearings scheduled and nothing kind of queuing up, so most likely it will be a cancellation.
Okay, but stay tuned in any event.
Stay tuned.
Okay, and then I'll open the floor to the public, close the floor to the public. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Campbell.
Second?
Second. Was that you, Dane? I couldn't tell where it was coming from. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night, everyone, and thank you.